Morning. Good morning, everyone. Thursday, August 27th. We're doing a Q&A today. Let me know when you're out there. Good morning. Going to give you all a few minutes to join before I dive in. So grab a cup of coffee, some tea, some water. Good morning. Hello. So I wonder what you guys are going to throw at me today, huh? Today is my live Q&A. So that means you get to ask me about what you want to hear about. For those of you that are new here, I'm Dr. Tricia Pingle. This is your morning checkup, and most days I do some sort of health topic, ways to improve your health, things you can do at home, profile herbs, supplements, diets, lifestyles, diseases, talk about the physiology of how things impact everything, teach you, basically, doctor as teacher. But every so often I do these little Q&As where you get to ask me a question and I will do my darndest off the top of my head to answer it. Sometimes I do have to look things up, but for the most part, you guys have always given me some great questions to think about. So I will give the floor to you when you guys are ready. How are y'all doing? Has anyone been able to send their kids physically back to school yet? In any states? I know some states did open for school, not here in Arizona. But just kind of curious how it's going. All right. First question, kind of along that line. I have a question about masks. Do you think wearing masks can lower our immunity? Thank you. In some respects, I can. I think that in this particular climate, there are ways that masks can reduce the spread. I definitely do not think they eliminate them, and I don't think that they help for the people that are exposed to someone wearing a mask. So it's more so keeping viral particles from coming out in such high volume. So one of the things that a lot of people don't understand about viruses is that viral load matters. So if I sneeze and I let out 100 particles and you're standing closer than 6 feet from me, you will likely inhale almost all those 100 particles, right? So you most likely will present with illness. Now, if I sneeze and you only get 10 particles, your body will kick in an immune response, but you won't get sick, okay? So what masks do is they reduce the number of particle sizes going out, but it's definitely not meaning you're not exposed. Now, the other side with that is if you're wearing a mask and somebody sneezes and you get particles on your mask, you could inhale those particles. So there's kind of a catch-22. I certainly think keeping distance, hand washing, and sanitation is probably the most important part. However, there is a chance that if the mask is truly blocking everything and you're not being exposed to these tiny little particles, that you could actually lower and hinder your immune response. We're supposed to be exposed to bugs. So that's why I'm kind of opposed to staying home completely unless you're high risk. If you're high risk, there's some different decisions to be made because for the majority of people, 99.9 some percent of people, because I think the severity, it affects less than a few percent of our population anyway, and then of that percent of the population, you're looking at a small percentage of the population. So we're going to say 99%, but 99% need that exposure in order to develop immunity, and that's why some people are asymptomatic. It simply could be viral loads, or it could be previous exposure, right? So masks can hinder and help in many different ways if they're used appropriately. Now, if you're somebody that doesn't wash your mask or change your mask every time you go out, so let's say you go to the grocery store and then you go to Home Depot, if you don't change your mask before you go to Home Depot, you're basically carrying everything from one place to the other. So there's a lot of pros and cons to masks. We've definitely seen in Arizona that if you're wearing them, the spread is slowed a little, although we also did a mandatory mask and our weather went up to 117 degrees, which I'm sure is playing a role. That disinfects masks pretty darn quick. So I don't know if that helps, but yeah, I do think that we need to be exposed to certain viruses and bugs in order to develop immunity. And so masks could either cause more exposure to that bug by it being stuck on the masks, or less by blocking things completely from getting in. So does that kind of where you were going with that? Let me know if I didn't answer that well, if you want more. That was kind of an opinion piece there, right? Our immune systems, I will say, our immune systems are incredibly bright. And our immune systems have come in contact with coronaviruses numerous times before because they're also part of the common cold. So our bodies are not against that. I mean, we've seen it before. Might be a little bit different presentation, but our bodies do have the ability to develop immunity. And we know that because they're they're developing a vaccine based on that fact, right? You wouldn't get a vaccine if you couldn't develop immunity. So obviously our bodies have an innate natural immunity. They're also using antibodies from people who have had COVID and injecting it into people who have COVID now in order to speed up and reverse the disease. So that's using antibodies to create immunity. So our bodies do have that ability, and in a healthy person that's low risk, we likely will develop that immunity, I believe. And so to me, you just want to keep the viral load lower upon exposure. How do you make it lower? You keep yourself at least 6 feet from somebody, because even if you don't have a mask on and they sneeze, the farther away you are, the less particle load goes into your mouth. And I don't believe that a mask at close proximity is going to do much different than somebody standing 6 to 7 feet away. But, you know, it may slow it a little bit in that regard, right? Okay, I hope that helped. What causes thyroid nodules? You know, thyroid nodules can happen for a variety of reasons. I mean, typically the thyroid is out of balance. Something's going on in the thyroid, but they can be completely benign, and the majority of the time they are benign. So Hashimoto's, I would definitely check for autoimmunity. There's a lot of underlying factors to that. You know, is the thyroid overproductive or underproductive? Are you on thyroid medication? What's the stress impact on the thyroid? Is there a predisposition genetically to nodules? You definitely want to watch them. Most of the time they're benign. And in fact, there are many endocrinologists out there that even if they suspect cancer, still don't recommend that you remove them. Because it could spread to the other areas of the thyroid. So it's kind of that area where thyroid is one of those areas where you really watch and wait a lot on hypertrophy or enlargement of it, as well as nodules, and it's kind of a case-by-case basis. They're usually not serious. They can be uncomfortable because they push against, you know, the neck. So especially if you have an enlargement of one side or the other, that also can cause uncomfortableness as well, Linda. Okay, I'm coming to Instagram just a second. Behçet's disease is a really big topic. I might come back to that one. I don't treat that often. I've only seen it a few times in my career. So there's probably a lot of specifics there that you're asking of me that I don't know that I can give. I mean, it is an inflammatory disorder. So anti-inflammatory diet, anti-inflammatory lifestyle is definitely going to help. Having proper nutrients going in that support inflammation, I think would be a very, very important thing. If I come up with more, I'll write them below in the Facebook post, okay? But definitely you're looking at an inflammatory disorder, so you focus on anti-inflammatory. Not knowing how much you've done, not knowing how serious it is, which of course would be more of an office visit than a live Q&A. It's hard to get a lot of that information in this platform. You know, it's hard to say how far we need to go with it, but definitely need to focus on anti-inflammatory diet. So I do have, actually, Dorina, on my website, drpingle.com, I do have an anti-inflammatory or a modified Mediterranean diet handout. Plant-based diets are also a great thing to look at because they tend to be very anti-inflammatory. So I would definitely make sure the diet is on check and that nutrients are being repleted that help with inflammatory pathways. Naturopathic doctors, many of them, like I said, I haven't treated this disease often, but many of us do. So I would say if you have a naturopathic doctor in your community, that would be a great addition to your health. I think they could probably help you out a lot, especially with IV therapies and such like that, okay? Texas schools are open. Yeah, I heard that. I kind of want to hear how it's going, you know? Hello from Slovakia. Well, hello from the US. Good morning, my friend Carrie. You got any good questions for me, Carrie? Okay. Let me check over on Instagram. I see more questions on Facebook. Give me a moment. I'm coming back. Richard, I'll be starting with you, so hang on. Okay. Have I ever used Arbonne? What is your opinion of their supplement products? You know what? I'd have to go back and review. I used Arbonne for beauty products like maybe 20 years ago, and I did it short-lived. I got to be honest. I didn't spend a lot of time with them. So I will have to go back and look at their supplements to give you an answer on that. Let me see if I can pull that up. For me, what I'm always looking for in a supplement is I want to know the absorbability of the product. Are you actually giving an absorbable form of that vitamin or mineral? And are there any fillers, additives, gluten, dairy, artificial colors, those types of things? So that's really what I look at the most. And I'll see if I'll try to pull one supplement up here to be able to give you a general idea of what I would say if you brought it to me and I turned it around. All right, we got an adaptogenic de-stress powder. Well, that's my specialty. Let's take a look at that, right? Well, I can tell, there we go. There's a supplement facts. Okay. So that is pretty much a straight ashwagandha L-theanine. I'm not sure why it has sugar in it. Oh, because it's a powder. So anytime you have a powder, a lot of times you get sugar in those supplements. Not a huge fan of that. Ashwagandha actually doesn't taste bad. You usually pay more for a powder supplementation than you will a capsule. I'm trying to find, it looks like a lot of them are like fizz sticks and stuff like that. Yeah, I'd have to go through it and more so. I'll have to go look for it and write you back on that. A lot of the times what I'm looking for is what are you paying for, right? So if ashwagandha as an herb, if I can get a 30-day supply of ashwagandha as an herb for $30, but then somebody wants me to pay $60 for ashwagandha plus sugar, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I kind of have to look at each individual one, okay? Yes, my supplements are coming out. Actually, the website is in final production. I'm hoping to have that up. I'm hoping by tomorrow. Definitely within the next few days. Like, absolutely keep a lookout. And I will put an announcement on Facebook as well. So I'll give you the website name when I have it. I don't want to release it yet because it's not there yet. So bear with me. But yeah, I also have an ashwagandha supplement, right? And I think also looking at how often do you have to refill it? Is it a 30-day supply? Is it a 60-day supply? Is it a 90-day supply? And how much is that? So often when you buy in bulk, you can get it at a lesser price. So a lot of my supplements, I'm starting with 30 capsules simply to get you guys introduced to it because I don't want you to try to commit to a product that costs more, even though it lasts longer, if you don't know if it works. So a lot of my products, I'm releasing like a 30-day probiotic, but I do have a 60-day version of it that will be coming out as well. So you know, it's kind of like you introduce people to it, you get it used to it, and then you can do longer amounts, which lowers the price even more, but has less upfront commitment. Pricing looks about consistent on the Arbonne site, just to answer that. Okay. My ashwagandha supplement is a blend, so it has ashwagandha in it, in addition to other herbs that help and nutrients that help the adrenal glands, and it's in a capsule form. Yeah, no sugar. Okay. Let's see. I saw another one there. Wow, lots over on Instagram here today. I know someone with men's and I'm trying to learn more about it. Yeah, that's a big one too. That's a big topic. What plant-based diets do you do? I'm plant-based. I eat plants. That's what I do. Occasionally I'll eat eggs. So I'm not in there. I do grass, like organic, locally farmed eggs primarily. But I mean, that's every so often. Sometimes I get stuck having to do something like that if I go out. But for the most part, I eat plants. I mean, that's the plant-based diet I do. I try to do a wide variety of colors, seeds, nuts, beans, any type of legume. As far as grains, I'm gluten-free, so I don't do any wheats or anything like that. So I typically lean towards quinoa, buckwheat, amaranth, millet, such like that. Okay. Okay, back to Facebook. All right, so what made me want to become a doctor? You guys haven't seen this story, huh? I have it on my website. I have a video that talks about that on the About Me page. You can definitely check it out at drpingle.com if you want the longer version. But essentially, I always pretty much knew that I was going to be in medicine somehow, but I initially went into veterinary medicine. I really wanted to treat animals. I've been an animal lover ever since I was a kid. I've probably had every single animal except large. Like I haven't had cows, horses, farm animals, but all the small animal I've pretty much owned. I've had snakes, lizards, gerbils, rats. I never had a ferret. I've had birds, dogs, cats, rabbits. I mean, you name it. Always been an animal person. I get a lot of joy from animals. And so when I went to college, I studied biology. My undergrad degree is in biology because I knew that that was kind of the area that I wanted to be in. It wasn't until right before I was about to go to vet school. I was interviewing for vet schools. I had graduated with my biology degree and I was interviewing for vet schools. And right about that time, I heard about naturopathic medicine and I just decided to investigate it. And it was right around the same time that my dad had had a stroke and had gone into a coma. And I kept asking the doctors, what's going on? I don't understand. Like, tell me, like he's in a coma. Is he going to come out of it? Where was it impacted? And I was getting such little information. And I was trying to get this information out of the doctors. And I'm like, look, I understand what's going on. Like, somewhat talk to me. And I felt very frustrated as a patient. And right about that same time, so I was getting ready to go to vet school, I heard about naturopathic medicine, and my dad was terminal. And I wasn't getting the information that I wanted. And so I looked further into naturopathic medicine, learned what it was all about, learned that it was about finding the cause, focusing on prevention, really educating people in ways that you can improve your life, which had always been something that I 100% believed in. I've always taken good care of myself as far as nutrition. I've never put a lot of junk food in my body. I was a dancer. I always kept myself fit. I did a switch right there. I switched into naturopathic medicine. I applied to naturopathic medical school, got in, and decided to go that route instead of the veterinary route. And I'm very happy that I did. And it's allowed me to kind of, when I deal with patients, to realize the frustration on their end that I had when my dad was going through what he did. And so that's where some of my passion behind wanting to educate, wanting you to understand what's going on, that's where that comes from. Because I know what it's like to be on the other side of that with a white coat looking at you saying, well, you're just going to have to do what we do. Like, we just don't know, that was very frustrating for me. So that's kind of the circle around. I do have a more formal explanation of that on my website that's a little bit more precise, but that's essentially it. The death of my father, the switch from veterinary to naturopathic is kind of why I went that route. I hope that answered that. Dr. Pingle, my pulse is 50 beats per minute most of the time. Should I be concerned? I have not done exercise for the last 3 months. Rosa, people have variable reasons why their beats per minute may be low. Mine tends to be low too. Mine's fairly variable, but on average, I'm somewhere around that 55 to 60 when I'm at rest. You'd have to really see a cardiologist, make sure that the heart is working well. A lot of people run bradycardic naturally. People who are really fit run low heart rates as well. So it's hard for me to say if you should be concerned. I would definitely check it out, make sure there's nothing going on. If inflammatory markers are good, cardiologist says heart is good, I really wouldn't spend too much time worrying about it. I would learn what's normal for you, right? And when it changes, what that means for you. You're welcome, Richard. I kind of stumbled over my little explanation. Hopefully I got it out there. Hello, Erin. How are you today? Carrie, do you have a supplement line? Are there supplements that everyone should take? I do have a supplement line coming out any day now. I'm so excited. Most of you have followed know, starting with 7 supplements. Okay, these supplements are some of the base ones that I feel are important. 2 adrenal supplements, one that kind of builds you up, another one that kind of calms you down. I have a mineral. We talk a lot about minerals here, right? We talk about the importance of having balanced minerals, not only for your hydration, the health of your cells, your energy, your bone health, I mean, you name it, your immune system. So it's good to have a really good balanced mineral. So I have that coming out. I also have a zinc coming out. You want to know why? Because it's sold out everywhere and it's critical in prevention of or improving T cell response in order to avoid getting sick. And this isn't just the current virus going around, this is every virus going around. So zinc is very important. I also have a B complex, and it's methylated, meaning that your body doesn't have to convert it into the active forms. I'm giving you the active forms so you can get energy from that, better hormone regulation. B vitamins are involved in everything, depression, anxiety, all of that type of thing. So that is in the lineup as well. An awesome probiotic. Love the probiotic, okay? And it's shelf stable. Now, granted, you can't let it sit around for a year. It does expire because it's a good probiotic, but you don't have to keep it in the fridge. So that means you can put it by your bed or whatnot and take it. It also has Saccharomyces boulardii in there, which is pivotal for healing the gut, okay, for repairing the gut. So that's very important. There's another one. Turmeric, curcumin, anti-inflammatory. I have a great curcumin coming out as well. Right after that, if you guys are interested and you're buying and you like my line, I have a liver support, I have a multivitamin mineral antioxidant, and I have an antiviral. Next. Cool? Thank you, Carrie. Stand by. Website coming out any day. I will give you the formal domain once it's live, but you can keep checking drpingle.com because there will be a link from there when it goes live, okay? Am I be making a magnesium? Not at the moment. Primarily, Erin, because they're readily available. So I will add a magnesium, and if you guys start buying and you're like, look, Dr. P, please add a magnesium, I'd be happy to do so. Not a problem. I just haven't yet. Okay? Let's see, I'll give a few more on Facebook here, then I'll move back over to you, Instagram, okay? Thank you so much. How is leaky gut diagnosed? Can probiotics help with leaky gut, and should they be taken regularly? Leaky gut, the diagnosis of leaky gut can be kind of tricky because it looks at multiple aspects of your digestion. I mean, pretty much if you're bloating or swelling or having digestive issues when you eat, there's probably something going on there. But I usually look at inflammatory markers. I look at how's the digestion. You can do food intolerance testing, and if you find that there's a ton of foods that are being reacted, I think it was something like when you, I want to say over 16 foods. If you have 16 foods that are reacted to, even if it's minimal, typically that means there's some form of leaky gut. As far as treating it, I have a lot of articles on this at drpingle.com. So first of all, using herbs that help heal up the gut, such as slippery elm, marshmallow, glutamine, that's not an herb, glutamine's an amino acid. Those can help with the mucosal tissue. We talked a little bit about mucosal tissue yesterday when it came to the immune system, all these little pink areas that run all through the gut, so you have to support the mucosal tissue. You usually also have to remove the foods that are causing problems temporarily. Probiotics are key, yes, every single day. Absolutely, because guess what? It's a synergistic relationship, right? Those bugs rely on us and we rely on those bugs. And leaky gut will unfortunately also impact the flora in your gut. So yes, probiotics are absolutely part of that scenario, okay? You've had 3 tarantulas? You know what, Vic? I never owned a tarantula. I'm sure I had at some point when I was a kid, I would collect bugs. So I know I had caterpillars. I think I had a bee once, and I would keep it, observe it, and then let it go. I guess I'm an observationist. My favorite kind of was, I had this lizard named Gertie, and she was a gecko, and she was really mean. She would bite everybody. Well, she got loose, and my mom and I were like, we don't want to try to catch her because she'll bite our finger. Like, she would literally bite the finger, and the lizard would be hanging off the finger. So we just let her loose in the house, but we had no bugs in our house for the entire time she was loose. At one point, she just went right back into the cage, and we closed it. We were like, well, welcome back, Gertie. And she was gone. I think it was about 3 weeks. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and she'd be on the ceiling. It was crazy. Hello, everyone. Hi. Do you have a supplement you recommend for hypothyroidism? And if so, could that supplement affect prescription meds? You know, supplements in regards to hypothyroidism are highly individualized. However, I will tell you that minerals are very important, okay? Particularly selenium, zinc, magnesium, probiotics, key for hypothyroidism. So definitely should be Gut health needs to be focused on with the thyroid. Stress management, using things like ashwagandha, rhodiola, L-theanine, things that help reduce the stress load and the sympathetic output on the body will help with Hashimoto's, with thyroid, especially Hashimoto's. So supplements that I usually consider are a good quality mineral, a probiotic, and stress support. Could those affect your medications? Yes, favorably. So if some of the reasons why your thyroid is not working well is due to stress or is due to a mineral deficiency, then your thyroid will improve. If your thyroid improves, sometimes that lowers the need for medication. So you just want to monitor the levels while you're incorporating those supplements to see if the need for medication gets less. Okay? Yes, but Gertie. You know where I got the name Gertie was from the play Oklahoma. I was in theater in high school, and that was the role I got. And she had this obnoxious laugh that I'm sure everyone who was in the play with me remembers. Gertie from Oklahoma. That's where her name came from. Okay? Are there soy in my brands? It always depends on the supplement, but generally no. But what I did on the website is I have listed every single ingredient. So you know what it is free of. And yes, I think off the top of my head, all the ones in the first round are absent of soy. Now, if I put out some that have to do with hormones, they may have soy in them, but it would be clearly labeled. Okay? Always. Okay? And once as a girl, I brought a small frog to her house, and my mom found it in the sink in the kitchen. She almost threw... Oh my gosh. Unfortunately, I didn't kiss it, so I didn't turn it... Funny little stories. All right. All right, I do see, so I'm moving over to Instagram now. I got to scroll down. Hang on, guys. Is keto good for weight loss? I've learned that it's best method to prevent loose skin. Yes, watch it back. It's all good. Keto. I'm not a huge keto lover. I'm just going to throw that out there, and I'm going to tell you why. It focuses a lot on inflammatory meats and dairy. And I have a problem with the inflammatory meat and dairy portion. Now, I have seen people do keto that do not incorporate inflammatory meats and dairy into it. So they get their fats from avocados, seeds, nuts, lean fish, chicken, those types of things, and they do a ton of plants. That type of keto, I've seen certain people get benefit from. The other problem I have with keto is I don't believe that it's sustainable lifelong. It's a short-term thing. I don't see how someone can sustain that until they're 80, right? So for me, when I'm incorporating a diet or when I'm looking at a diet and I'm thinking, okay, and I hate to call it a diet because it's not, it's a lifestyle change. So when I'm looking at, okay, what types of foods can we put in that help you lose weight, that keep you healthier, but it also has to be sustainable. You have to be able to continue it. Otherwise, you're going to yo-yo, right? So some of my concerns with keto is the sustainable portion. It's not overly sustainable, right? I mean, it's hard. And on top of that, it includes a lot of inflammatory meats and dairy. So is it good for weight loss? Maybe for some. Is it good for permanent weight loss? Jury's still out on that. I'm still watching. I'm watching people do it. I'm trying to learn from it. I'm trying to be open-minded to it because a lot of people really tout it as great. I just haven't, I'm kind of on the fence with it. And that's my personal opinion. I do like that it allows incorporation of plants if done properly. So there are many different types of keto, right? So I tried to do keto as a vegetarian, and it was literally impossible. I just simply couldn't get enough protein. I mean, it just wasn't possible, as well as enough fat, really. And I would go to eat a sweet potato and my carbs would be hit right away. And I'm like, okay, I've had a quarter of a sweet potato all day and the rest of it is nuts, seeds, and lentils. Like, this isn't gonna work, right? So when you are plant-based, you need more carbohydrate. The question is what type of carbohydrate. So I think keto can confuse people if it's not well-guided and not well-educated. Does that help? Thank you. I'm excited about my upcoming line as well. There's so many forms of magnesium. I take neuromagnesium. Is that enough or should I take another? Neuromagnesium. Is that a typo? I gotta look up what neuromagnesium is. Oh, neuro. Neuromag? Is that what you're talking about? Sometimes I gotta look these up because I don't know what's in them. There are so many supplements out there, right? Typically, I look for glycinate, bisglycinate. That's my favorite form. I do also use orotate. In a pinch, I use citrate, not my favorite. Definitely avoid oxide, sulfite, or sulfate. Oxide and sulfate do nothing in any supplements. So those of you who are out there taking zinc oxide, zinc sulfate, you're wasting your money. You want either a... You want magnesiums to be bound to certain amino acids. So it looks like neuro is bound to taurine. Okay, yeah, that's a good way to take it. I don't use that one a lot. I typically lean more towards the glycine version, which is glycinate. But I do have a lot of people that do use the taurine that's bound to L-theanine. So the goal is you're trying to attach it to a neurotransmitter that's naturally absorbed. So that's why they combine it with those things. There's something called a ligand. So when you take a magnesium or a calcium or a zinc or whatever, you bind it with a ligand, right? Why do we do that? We do that to keep it stable, but we also do it to ensure absorbability. So the ligand matters. So earlier when someone asked me about Arbonne, for me to be able to give that answer, I have to look at what ligands they're using, right? I have to look at what they're binding to. That's what matters to me. So if it's binding to something that's regularly absorbable and highly absorbable, bingo. If it's binding to something that's typically eliminated from the body, like oxide and sulfate, not gonna absorb much. Does that help? Does that make sense to you guys? A little bit of chemistry in there for you. Keep it fun, right? Can I watch the mucosal tissue live? Was it yesterday? We talked about vitamin A. I talked a lot about mucosal tissue yesterday in the vitamin A live. Weren't you here? I think you might have been here. I also have a lot on my website about that, and I'll keep talking about it. Okay? Can you name triggers for migraines? Oh my gosh, Greg, it could go on forever. You name it, it could be a trigger. Most common, dehydration, probably one of the top triggers I see. And sometimes it's not about not drinking enough water, but it's not having a proper mineral balance in order to absorb that water. Magnesium deficiency tends to be a very strong cause of headaches. A lot of the times by taking magnesium with a lot of water, you can get rid of a migraine. Hormone shifts, low or high, imbalances, stress, food intolerances. I know a lot of people lean towards, tomatoes and chocolate and things like that, which of course can trigger migraines. But I would say more so, I would look to the health of the cell. I would look to what's the cell signaling? Are you getting hydration into the cell? Are you getting nutrition into the cell? B vitamins, magnesiums, in fact, any mineral, stress, and hormone imbalances, as well as proper gut flora. Those are all things that I kind of look at that most doctors don't consider on the first pass. So if you're asking for things that your traditional doctor won't come up with, that would be them. I know that was very fast. You'll have to play that back, huh? I think I actually have an article on headaches or migraines coming up. It's on the list. I write my topics out about 2 to 3 months in advance, and I know it's on there somewhere. Okay? I answered the keto question, right? I'll go back to Facebook here in just a second. And then I'll come... any foods or minerals that can prevent or fix loose skin on the body? I wish I had a quick fix for you. Pilates, a lot of core work. If there's loose skin, I know a lot of people, if they've lost a ton of weight, do have that surgically removed. Anything that's involved in collagen probably would help, vitamin C, minerals, but it's not going to be like you take it and boom, the skin goes away. That's a long process, but if you have that loose skin, that means you've lost a lot of weight. So good job, right? One moment at a time, right? Give yourself gratitude for what you have done. Okay? All right, back to Facebook. All right, is there a dog food I recommend? Yeah, and why can't I think of the name of it? Oh my goodness. It's a holistic dog food. And I cannot think of the name of it at the moment. I texted my husband because I can't remember. I'll come back to that, Tommy. Yeah. Our dogs, because we have bulldogs and hound dogs, they, I think it's Pura Vida. It's Pura Vida. There you go, Pura Vida. I love Pura Vida. It's a holistic dog food. We have dogs that tend to have skin issues because we have hound dogs and a French bulldog. So we have to be very cautious about what we put into their body. But I use Pura Vida. Okay? Love the Q&A. Well, thank you. Kind of puts me on the spot, folks. Keeps me sharp, I guess. Can CRISPR be used to edit viruses so they don't infect humans? I'm not sure I understand your question. Can CRISPR? CRISPR? I'm not sure what you mean there, Ahmed. If you could repeat that, I'm not sure how to answer that question. If you're talking about genetic modification to have us respond to viruses differently, I'm sure we can. But then again, you have to get humans to subject themselves to that, which means they're willing to subject themselves to viruses. So, it's going to take a lot of animal studies probably first to get to that point. But if you could clarify what you mean, I'll try to give you a more distinct answer. What are your thoughts, opinions on the places where you can get vitamin shots worth doing? That's a great question. That's a really great question because you see everywhere, vitamin B12 shots, vitamin injections, vitamin IVs. First of all, I used to own and operate a vitamin IV bar. When done correctly with the right nutrients from somebody who understands what they're doing, they are incredible, okay? Incredible. Now, the problem I see, let's talk about B12 shots, is that B12 comes in numerous forms, okay? So if the company wants to be cheap, they'll inject you with cyanocobalamin. The problem with cyanocobalamin is your body has to convert it into the active form, a methylcobalamin. It has to methylate it. Many of us have a mutation called MTHFR where we cannot do that appropriately. There's a lot of things that can stop that methylation from happening. So when you inject yourself with cyanocobalamin, you only get a very, very small amount of vitamin B12, okay? Now, if you're at a place where they're using methylcobalamin, you're going to get a higher proportion of that. Here's the thing. You're going to pay the same amount for an injection of cyanocobalamin as you are for methylcobalamin, most likely, and you're not getting this quality of product from one to the other. So knowing what they're injecting you with is very important. If you ask the physician or whoever's running the place what forms of vitamins they use, and they are able to clearly tell you without hesitation and explain to you the benefits like I do, probably good to go, right? The form matters. Always matters, okay? So the other thing on B12 injection, keep in mind that B6, B12, and folate all work kind of equally, and they don't want to be out of balance. So a lot of the times you'll have a sign in your lab work that you might be B12 deficient, but you also have to consider that you might be B6 and folate deficient. So if you give too much B12 and you're not looking at the B6 and folate, you can actually make things worse, such as many macrocytic anemias can get worse if you're giving B12 instead of the others. So it's not always required. Sometimes you want to switch that up and do different injections or do B-complex injections or oral supplementation of B6 and methylated folate in addition to the B12 injections. As far as nutritional IVs, I see some miraculous recoveries with nutritional IVs. Now, there's a lot of changes in the FDA. The FDA is trying to pull these things away from us naturopaths. Really a shame, because what they're doing is they're pulling them away from us. They're turning them into a pharmaceutical and they're selling them to the MDs at 12 times the price. So if you have someone in your area that does have an IV bar, that does offer those types of services, and they have the training and background to understand where it's coming from, it can be incredibly beneficial. Yeah. Absolutely, especially for autoimmunities, nutritional deficiencies, those types of things. What is the best way to make turmeric tea? I don't make turmeric tea often, but I do make golden milk. Have you ever made golden milk? And basically you use some sort of nut milk. I do have a recipe on my website in the curcumin article or turmeric article. But you basically decoct you take plant-based milk, put the turmeric root in there, some ginger root, some black pepper, some coconut oil, and you boil it. You let it just kind of simmer. Very, very, very yummy. And you can add maple syrup or honey if you want to sweeten it up. To make turmeric tea in general, though, you'd probably just boil the root. That's what I would do. Just buy the root, peel it, throw it in there, let it boil for a while. You're welcome. No problem, Tommy. What do I recommend for arthritis and leg cramps? Start with magnesium. Take a look at magnesium. Talk to your doctor about that. Usually leg cramps are playing a role to mineral deficiencies. Once again, a lot of people were saying, do you have a multivitamin coming out? The first thing I'm releasing is a mineral, because how many times when you guys ask questions do I say get on a good mineral, right? So minerals definitely make a difference in leg cramps. Hydration levels. Make sure you're drinking at least half your body weight in water every day. At least. Okay? Let's see. Hill's dog food. That's Science Diet, right? My cat eats that one because he has a history of urinary stones. So I think he uses one of the, oh no, he's on Royal Canine. I don't know. It's a prescription food. I don't have a problem with it. The reason I like the Pura Vida is that it's a holistic, single source protein food, as opposed to a bunch of different meals, kind of ground together. I figure if I could cook for my dog, I would. I don't have time to cook for my dogs, so I use food that's as close to. Speaking of dogs, can you hear Piggy snoring? There she is. She's snoring. We put her to sleep. I think I have Emma here too, but you can't see her. Anyway, haven't heard of that. Definitely have to protect our access to compounds. Yeah. Golden milk recipe. You know what? I just kind of gave you a rundown, but if you go to drpingle.com, it's up there. I believe it's in the curcumin article. I should move it to the recipe section as well. Sorry, but you can also just type in golden milk recipe. Big Pharma wants to control it. Yeah, it's rather sad. There's actually a lot of naturopaths that are really petitioning to keeping compounded injectables on the market of nutrition, because they're trying to take away like B12 and things like that. I'm like, that it's like one of the number one deficiencies in elderly people, right? Majority of the dementia is caused by nutritional deficiencies. So why are we taking them away? And then having to charge twice as much, actually way more than twice as much for them. Vitamin C over the years, the price has just creeped up as it's become more and more controlled by larger companies. And it's really a shame because it really should not be that expensive. So I recently found out that a good friend of mine was diagnosed with prostate cancer. What's the best treatment for that? Richard, I'm not a cancer specialist. I do have a good friend who is. I don't know if you saw the live with Dr. Jake Basenka. He is definitely more versed in cancer than I am, and I do want to have him back to talk about men's health. In fact, I need to give him a shout out today to see if he can come back and talk about that, because I think that would be great. Prostate cancer, from my memory and from just speaking to other doctors, there's a wide variety of treatments. Definitely what I look at with as far as prevention or working towards minimizing the risk, or post prostate cancer, the things that I watch for both cancer and for BPH or enlarged prostate is I look at estrogen levels a lot, particularly estrone. A lot of doctors only look at estradiol. Estrone, I tend to find, is more problematic. I also look at the stress response on the body. There's a lot of nutrients that are very healthy to the prostate, zinc being one of them. But I will definitely reach out to Dr. Pasenka again and see if he'll do another live where we can specifically come on and talk about you gentlemen out there, because you guys are great and you show up and we talk a lot about different things, but not a lot about you specifically. So I will absolutely reach out to him today. Jake, if you're watching, come on back. Come on back. They're asking for you. Yes, Tommy, that's what the noise is. Piggy. She snores a lot. All right, it is getting late. What else you guys got for me? Anything else? Because I can't stay here all day, but hey, what great questions today. Are you guys enjoying these Q&As? Kind of fly by my seat of my pants, Dr. Pingle, I guess. And I so appreciate your interest in the supplement line. Thank you. I'm really excited about it. I think that plus the program and my book is going to give you guys so many resources for getting well, which I love. And for those of you out there that are watching that are doing the program, write in how you're doing, right? Let these people know, because I'm watching some amazing things happen, and other people need to hear about it, okay? I use it, the dog food is Pura Vida. Puravita. And there's a bunch of holistic foods like that. Like I said, what I look for is a single source protein. So we rotate. Sometimes they have venison, sometimes they have salmon, sometimes they have duck, sometimes, you know. So how to boost immunity in morbid obese people? That's a fantastic question. I'm going to take that one today because that's a fantastic question. So when we're looking at risk factors of COVID, right, we have a very clear picture. Of course, there's always outliers. Okay, there's always outliers that die of the flu that don't make any sense either. There's always a random child that may die of COVID. There's also many more that die from the flu randomly. So there's always the outliers. So you have to pull away from the 1 to 5. But when you look at the majority of the people impacted severely by this particular virus going around, morbidly obese is significantly a risk factor, like significantly. A lot of that has to do, I believe, with inflammatory baselines. The baselines are more inflammatory in obesity, more likely to have diabetes, more likely to have heart disease, which are the other 2 risk factors. So when the body is focused so much on that inflammation, it's not focused so much on a healthy immune system. So if you go back and you think, what is the immune system here for? What does it do? When you have an invader, so you breathe in whatever, the flu, right? Your body creates an immune response. That immune response is inflammatory. Okay, so if your inflammatory marker is already up here and you add a little bit more inflammation, your immune system's gonna miss it. It's not enough. The goal is to have no inflammation or very minimal inflammation so that when something hits, your body goes, whoa, and kills it off, right? When you're already inflamed, it doesn't do that as effectively. So it actually damages the immune system. When the immune system is damaged, it doesn't have as quick of T-cell response, antibody response, histamine response. All of those are dampened, right? So it allows the pathogen to stay in the body for a longer period of time, which can cause more damage, okay? As opposed to someone, let's say a 6-year-old that comes in to contact with coronavirus, the flu, whatever, and they come into contact with it, their immune system right away gets up, catches it, and gets it out of there. You know, they might only be sick for 24 hours, if that, right? Because their immune system is on top of it. So when you have the obesity and you have also, unfortunately, with that comes a lot of diabetes and heart disease, you have a lessened response on your immune system. So your question is, what do you do about it? How do you do? First of all, it is always a good time to improve your diet, your exercise, and your health. Always. It's not immediate, okay? So you start exercising and improving your diet today, no, your immune system is not gonna be healed in a week. But 6 months from now, it will be. Because guess what? There's gonna be more threats coming at us. We survived through this one, we're gonna have another virus that comes through. It always happens. We've seen it repetitively throughout the years. You see in the news, Spanish flu, H1N1, I mean, you name it. We go through viruses, right? So anything that you guys can do right now to improve your health 6 months from now or a year from now, you should do, okay? Okay. Secondly, minerals. Zinc is a big one. What does zinc do? And I do have a live on zinc coming up. I'd like to do it next week. Okay, so keep a lookout. But zinc increases your T cells. Okay, so it helps your T cells respond to invaders. Those are some of the first responders as well. That's very important. Looking at the mucosal surfaces, we've been talking about keeping those protected, right? So things like glutamine, beta carotenes to get vitamin A. Vitamin C is an antioxidant. That's very, very important. So vitamin D, they're finding a lot of people right now that are also obese are also very low in vitamin D, and that's having an impact on their immune system. So making sure that nutrition and these particular nutrients that provide our immune system with benefit are very, very important. So that's what you could start doing now. Did that help? Yeah? What is your program called? Okay, absolutely. My program is Total Health Turnaround, and it can be found at totalhealthturnaround.com. And it is set out as a 30-day program. However, it's absolutely maintainable for lifetime, I believe. And I'd love to have feedback from the people doing it that say the same thing. But it basically focuses on how stress impacts the body and educates you on how to reduce that, how to improve it, the nutrients that you need to look at as far as supplementation, as far as diet. It has a 30-day diet plan. It has an amazing cookbook. It has mind-body exercises. It is basically a full guide to completely change your life at home. So, totalhealthturnaround.com. Did that help you with the question on immunity and obesity? That's a really long answer, but I think it's an important question. They keep coming at me. Walking as effective as running. Many times, It's kind of individualized. If you run and you're not well aligned, you can cause more harm than good. The goal is to get the heart rate up. Best foods for reducing inflammation. Check out, I have an article on that, drpingle.com. Check that out. I do. I have I know it's in the diabetes article. There's the best diet for diabetes. Take a look at that article. Was the level of fatalities during the earlier H1N1 virus comparable to COVID rate? Do you foresee future shutdowns during? You know, Bob, it's interesting. I think if you compare numbers to numbers, obviously you'll see more fatalities with COVID. However, if you compare who they killed, you're going to see pretty distinct differences. H1N1 is non-discriminatory. It didn't seem to care whether you were old, young, healthy, or not. If it got you, it got you. There was no way to predict who it was going to be safe or not in. Where COVID has a pretty clear target audience, right? So we can clearly say that people that live in nursing homes, assisted livings, people that are obese, diabetic, and hypertension are going to be far more susceptible to negative outcomes from this virus. We can pinpoint that. We can say that most likely children are going to be okay, young adults are going to be okay, unless they have immune system disorders, kidney disorders, diabetes, or obesity, right? Now keep in mind, a lot of our children are obese here in America. So we do have to consider that. That's not being listed. When they say a healthy child has significant outcomes, they're not looking at their weight. That definitely needs to be involved. So I think when we look at, can we predict who is going to be impacted with COVID? Yes. As a physician, that makes me more comfortable because I can say, okay, I need to really protect this person. I need to make sure they're removed. I need to make sure that people aren't coming in contact with them. H1N1, we couldn't do that. You had no idea who was going to be fatal or who wasn't, right? That's scary to me. When you can't pinpoint who it is that it targets, that's more frightening to me than one that I can pinpoint because I can protect those people. I can single them out and protect people. I do think there's going to be more shutdowns. My personal opinion is that's unfortunate because I believe there's a lot that we can do. And I think that, there is a 99% survival rate for the most part, particularly under 70. Over 5 million people have recovered from coronavirus. Over 5 million. It might even be 5.5 million at this point, which is pretty phenomenal. I'm seeing more and more treatments come out every day. I'm seeing more and more people recover. I'm seeing more and more cases of my patient database, all of which have been manageable, mild, moderate. And the biggest thing that I focus on with my patient database is picking out who's at highest risk and protecting them. I do advise people that are in that high risk group to take extreme precaution. Okay, but those that aren't, you just need to take precaution in not coming into contact with the people of a really high risk group. If you have a elderly person in your home that has these underlying conditions, you may not want to send your child back to school. That's up to you. It should be a personal choice on that. I think we all have to have some personal responsibility here. We all need to pay attention. This virus is real. It can be dangerous to many, but not all. So we have to look at how can we move through it, move forward, and continue to improve on our treatments so that we can get people well and back into life. That's kind of where I'm at. And that's my personal opinion. Don't hate me, but I think we have to look at this realistically and figure out a solution. Living in fear and hiding in our homes, we can't sustain. Once again, this is about sustainability. This virus isn't going to go away. And most likely when the vaccine comes out, it's going to be available to only certain high-risk groups. And just like the flu vaccine, it may only be 20-30% effective. So we're going to have to figure out a way to do this. So I think we all need to be open-minded to all sides of the argument. And we need to have realistic, honest discussions without tearing each other down. But yes, I do think there might be future shutdowns. I'm hoping not. Hi, interested in the 30-day program. You know what? Check out totalhealthturnaround.com. Okay? Asking about COVID and asthma. Yeah, you know what? I haven't found general asthma to be a huge risk factor unless you're already oxygen compromised. So if you're someone that the asthma is so severe that you're already low in oxygen to begin with, that could be. But as far as like your standard asthma case, no. Also, many of the treatments for COVID are asthma medications, such as the long-acting, inhalers. Bucinide is a big one. So all of those like Advair and those types of things are actually treatment for COVID. So a lot of those are not necessarily showing to be a big risk factor. It has still, from day one, has been obesity, diabetes definitely at the top, combined with hypertension. Now, they have not, I don't think, found mild hypertension or people with controlled hypertension to be a huge risk factor, unless they also have obesity and diabetes. Kidney disease, immune compromise, like going through chemo. There has not been a lot of links to autoimmune disease. Autoimmune disease has not been listed ever as a major risk factor, and nor has asthma. So unless it's really severe. I know there was someone I knew who ended up getting it that was in the hospital already 3 to 4 times a year for asthma, was a very, very severe asthma case, and ended up getting COVID, went to the hospital for about 4 days because they wanted to do extra management and watching, was released, did recover, but had more, did have to be hospitalized because of the underlying condition, if that helps. Okay. All right, I'm going to take the last question and I'm out of here, guys. It's already 10:15. I can't believe it. We've been here for an hour. Can you believe it? Do I have my family get flu shots? Oh, boy. I don't talk about vaccines much because it's a controversial area. And I pretty much am not going to win no matter what I say. Personally, I do not. That does not mean that I tell everyone not to, okay? I personally do not. I'll leave it at that. Okay? All right, guys. You guys have been great. Hopefully I didn't wear you out. That was an hour. All right. Hey, see you tomorrow, 9:15. I'm Dr. Tricia Pingle. I'll give you all the websites. All of you are asking. We've got drpingle.com full of articles, recipes, information, full of information all about what I talk about in my lives. Also, my Facebook page, Instagram page, YouTube page have these videos, okay? TotalHealthTurnaround.com is for the program. My book is also called Total Health Turnaround. Right now it's available on Amazon. It should pop up on my website as well. And my supplement line will be coming out soon, so really soon. So keep an eye out for that. Do morbid obese people recover from COVID? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just a higher risk factor, right? So when they say if you're high risk, you should protect yourself more, just be aware of that. Right? Protect yourself a little bit more. But yes, absolutely. Over 5 million people have recovered, guys. The death rate keeps dropping. The treatments are getting better. They're catching it earlier, right? The problem is when you catch it late, okay? So there's absolutely people are recovering. A 101-year-old woman recovered from it. It's not an absolute, just like any virus. It is not an absolute. Just because you are obese or just because you have hypertension or just because you're over 70 does not mean that you won't make it, okay? Means your odds are less. Your odds are still, I think what was the last stat I looked at was over 70, there was still a 90 or 92% chance of recovery. Okay, so even if you took that to Vegas, right, and you said I have a 90% chance that I'm going to win at roulette, there's still a darn good chance that you're going to be okay, all right? So we just want to protect you so that we don't have to deal with that, right? Because we don't want to take that risk. So we protect the best we can, but odds are good, okay? Odds are good. Odds are getting better every day. The longer we go through this, the more we learn, the more we test, the more we treat, the more we try, the more people that are open-minded, the best we go. All right, guys, thank you so much. It's getting long. I'll talk to you later. Bye.